Welcome to everybody here watching here for Saturday afternoon's main event. Just starting off the show, Peeps Nate, my tag team partner, the Phenomenal One, will join us in a second. As you can see on the bottom of the screen that's scrolling, there is a GoFundMe page or a link to a GoFundMe page of Barry Windham, who, for those that are wrestling fans that know who he is and how his importance is to the business, has had some really serious health issues over the last few years. Uh, Probably about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, he suffered a heart attack and recovered seemingly pretty good over time. Just recently, within the last few days, he had another heart attack, and this was a big heart attack. He was in the hospital for quite some time, and the update is that he was in ICU. He is now out of ICU. His niece, Mika Rotunda, who is the daughter of his former tag team partner, Mike Rotunda, basically went on Twitter and said, "Thank you to all of those that have reached out, prayed, contributed, and sent well wishes to my Uncle Barry this week. I wanted to give an update. I am grateful to say he is stabilized and out of ICU, talking and able to stand. Thanks again to everyone. There absolutely is power in prayer." And that was on December the 9th, which was just yesterday. So that's good news for the Windham family. For those that are not in the know, Barry Windham is the uncle of Bray Wyatt and his brother, Bo Dallas, who are now in the mindset of trying to think about their careers and as well as their families. So we usually don't do this. We have a GoFundMe link. So if you want to donate maybe to his medical bills or anything that you think you may be able to help him along the way, you can do so right there. Our heartfelt prayers go out to Windham and his family, as this is definitely something really, really tough to go through. Anybody that's ever gone through anything like that, very tough to go through. Windham has a long lineage and history in the business, one of my personal favorite wrestlers, and probably one of the better people that are out there. So keep him in your prayers as we continue to go along with the show. And we thank you. And you can follow that GoFundMe link if need be.
Thank you, peeps. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we will go ahead and start a 30-second timer to go ahead and begin Saturday afternoon's main event. So guys, stay tuned, do not go anywhere. Episode 2 is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Season 5, Episode 2 of the phenomenon known to all as Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know who I am, I suggest you go to school, go to your library, look up the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the phenomenal one, and of course, joined by me is none other than my co-host, the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun, who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, give me 2 claps and a peeps Nate.
Woo! Yes, we are here. We are here. Yes, sir. And very heavy opening in the show, but we're going to get you guys ready for all of the stuff that you're used to. All of the great wrestling, the wrestling news, opinions and highlights and insights and everything that goes along in the heads of myself and my partner. And of course, you guys at home. That's what we do every Saturday. So without further ado, I'll tag out to my partner.
Not a problem, peeps. Thank you. So of course, you guys know that our mission statement here on Saturday afternoon's main event is to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and start out the right way. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, what? You know when you hear that, means one thing and one thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Fast Track. Of course, let's go ahead and start off with some key fundamental wrestling news, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, John Cena will return on the final SmackDown of 2022. Hopefully you guys can see that above the ticker due to the fact that we know we can't see that man, of course. But peeps, what does this mean storyline wise for whatever they have planned for Mr. Cena?
Oh, well, it just means that Mr. Cena will be main eventing WrestleMania. I guess that's usually what it means, right? Oh, no. I don't think so. Maybe he'll main event the Royal Rumble? No.
Nah.
That just means they're trying to pop a rating. That's literally what it is. Cena hasn't been on SmackDown in like a year. It's nice to see him return home, so to speak. And it gives a boost to the ratings where you figure last Friday of the year, going in, you got a New Year's rolling around 2 days later. You give the fans what they want. And apparently, if they want Mr. John Cena, Cena will be in the building. And it will do, I think it'll do pretty well. And that's an understatement to say. But yeah, I think that's what they're looking for. Just to pop a rating. And it's nice to see him on TV again. He hasn't been on in a while. Of course.
But I mean, pretty amazing. I would say pretty phenomenal if you ask me. But I mean,
I'm sure you would.
Of course. Come on now, peeps. Come on, man. You know the memo.
Yes.
But okay, Cena to return on the final SmackDown of 2022. But we have another surprise for you, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of WrestleMania, WWE is considering to have Roman Reigns wrestle both nights at next year's WrestleMania. Of course, this is just a rumor, ladies and gentlemen. This is not coming from the dirt sheets. This is not presumably about to happen. But due to them considering this, peeps, what is, like, how does this, I really don't get it. Like what? You know, Cody one night and then The Rock the next night? What are we doing here?
I think what they're trying to do is, I think Triple H has kind of painted himself in this corner. Well, I won't say Triple H did. I'll say that Vince McMahon basically painted the company in this position where Roman Reigns has both championships on both of his broad shoulders and is carrying the company. But based on what we're seeing right now, there's that issue of how do we get these belts off of Roman Reigns? Because we have talked about this many times before, that both Fox and USA Network would actually like to have a championship, not the secondary championships, although they've been doing a great job of promoting their importance on each show, independent of who is the champ. But knowing that there is no Universal champ and there's no WWE champ separately on either show, then you're going to have to say, well, how are we going to get these belts off of Roman? And if that is a rumor or something that can potentially happen, let's see how they do it.
I understand you on that. Still moving into the world of WWE, but instead, the developmental area of NXT. Ladies and gentlemen, next year, 2023, NXT will once again be emanating a premium live event in an arena. Peeps!
Oh.
Peeps!
Wow.
Peeps. I kid you not. I sat there and I looked at it and I said, wow, we are actually, this is really going to happen. So ladies and gentlemen, February 4th, 2023, mark your calendars because NXT Vengeance Day will be set at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte, North Carolina.
So I guess NXT is ready to take over. You see what
Zing! I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Not too bad.
I got a million of them.
Of course.
I think it makes sense. NXT has we know NXT has not been treated with the greatest of attention under the Vince McMahon era.
Course. Don't
Now
talk
that
about
he
those
is-
errors.
Yes. We are past the unicorn vomit. So
Mhm.
let's. But basically, what we're seeing right now is Triple H is now slowly trying to venture NXT back to that third brand as opposed to that developmental territory that we won't talk about. So if you know that consistently, and it's happened in the recent years, the NXT premium live events that happened on WrestleMania weekend were in some instances better than WrestleMania. And for a lot of people, if you can get that feeling that they're going to start running premium live events in buildings that are not in Florida and get that feeling back and treat it the way it is, then you got yourself something that I think Triple H would be proud of. And then they are getting to further leverage the company as far as the brands that they have with giving at those fans what they want. Meaning, we got Raw and SmackDown as the main brands, but NXT is not only its own brand, but it's also on par. Even though we're giving you wrestlers that will develop into the WWE style before we bring those stars up to the main roster. And I think that's what they're trying to do. So you do that by stepping your toes into the pond and getting them back into being reacclimated into saying, you know what? NXT is its own great entity. Let's go ahead and start giving them their own premium live events somewhere in a stadium, in a building, and see what happens.
Of course. From there, we move into the world of All Elite Wrestling. They say, let's just put it like this, peeps. Your guy, your guy. The one that Peeps has talked about for the longest time as an underdog and somebody that has somewhat been underutilized, seemingly is now getting a push. Ladies and gentlemen, of course Halloween has passed, but let me just go ahead and quote Dr. Frankenstein real quick. He's alive! Ricky Starks is alive!
Yes.
Whoa,
Yes.
okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you watched this past week's Dynamite, you would know that Ricky Starks is now in possession of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Yes. Which now means that Ricky Starks is going to challenge MJF for the All Elite Wrestling World Championship. But peeps, we all know how that's gonna go. But hopefully we get something good out of this, in the sense that Ricky Starks starts getting his full real upper mid card push.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about this whole thing?
First and foremost, I've talked about how much I thoroughly enjoyed Ricky Starks when he even first got to AEW. Seeing him in the NWA and seeing what he could do there. Seeing him in other promotions, seeing what he could do. You can see he's got it in the ring. He's got the talent. He's got the charisma. And by God, he has the mouth. And we heard literally everything that he is. He didn't give you the normal, well, you've never seen somebody like me before, and I'm going to go ahead and buy gum. We're going to... No. What he did was he took his shoe, turned it sideways, and stuck it up MJF's rear end. Verbally.
Candy rear end. Let's put it that way, peeps. There we go.
Rudy Poo. And that's all I'm going to say on that. But in all reality, though, Ricky Starks is one of those. He's one of those guys that has the charisma that you just can't. You can't bottle it up and define what it is.
Of course.
He just has it. And there are a lot of wrestlers that get that charisma naturally. Some people earn it. Some people work on it. And then they figure, you know what? I have it now. I'm confident in what. No. Ricky Starks was like this from the day he walked into the ring. He had that charisma. He had that mouth. And because he's not a real big guy, he's maybe 6 feet, maybe 6'1", maybe 210, 205. Not a really big guy. But he speaks and wrestles bigger than he shows you. And because of how he speaks and the way he interacts with not only the fans and how he does the entrance and that he has that charisma down to a science. And the one thing that you're going to have to do when you get into a feud with MJF or anybody else for that matter, especially in AEW, you got to be able to talk. You've got to be able to show the reason why they're giving him a push. Why should this guy get into the ring, not even to wrestle, but why should he even be in the ring to talk with MJF, who is a savant on the mic?
Yup, talk about it.
He is just as much a savant as MJF. And in some instances, dare I say it, he actually sounded a little bit better. Just on that particular promo. That's not saying MJF isn't better than Ricky Starks, but Starks came out and did what he needed to do. And of course, the best thing that they did after he cut the diamond promo, MJF had no retort but to kick him in the yam bag and walk out of the ring. I mean, you can't do it any better. So we've got something set up for that.
Of course, but I mean, Starks did spear him. And I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. That new Burberry AEW title, it looks good on Ricky Starks.
I was about to say, I thought you were about to say.
Nah. That's like putting unicorn vomit on an NXT title. Are you kidding me? Listen. I'll stick to the big gold belt behind me instead of the big Burberry belt.
Triple B.
The Triple B. What the?
Yeah.
Let's just wait until the bidding war of 2024, peeps. Please, because if anything, I like to think that we might have to see this title for the next year. I mean, they could have been.
What he might add to this thing if he has this championship up until then.
Built-in scarf.
He might actually add, scarf with a the monogram, his initials on it, and a championship on the side, and monogram his initials on the belt. I mean, it's coming.
Most definitely. Next in the world of AEW, Miro is not on TV. This is not something that we don't know, ladies and gentlemen. I think we all go on Twitter every now and then and say, why the heck is Tony Khan not using Miro? What is it that they don't have planned for him? We know that the man is healthy. We know that the man can go. What's wrong? This man was a 2-time TNT champion already, peeps?
Yes.
So why exactly isn't he on TV? You may ask. Peeps, would you like to answer that question for the people that are currently watching?
Well, actually, I would like you to answer it. And then
you would like me to answer it?
Yes, I want you to answer it. I want you to answer it. Oh, man. And then I'm going to bounce off of that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to go ahead and hit up Paul Heyman real quick before I go ahead and answer Peeps' question. Here's how this goes, all right? I am going to tell you the truth upon this, whether you like it or not. But the fact of the matter is that we have EVPs that can't run a target, okay? And we know for a fact that Miro is most capable of being a top-notch superstar when it comes to the world of All Elite Wrestling. But one thing, when I answer this question, I kid you not, there are going to be many I digresses. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that is not a prediction. It is a spoiler. So, once again, Beefs, to answer your question, as I said, the EVPs don't have anything for Miro. But they do have something for Heyman Adam Page, not at the fact that he's in a feud with Jon Moxley. I digress from that. Yeah. They do have something for some of the people in the Dark Order, due to the fact that Cole Cabana is back in AEW TV. But once again, they don't have something for Miro. I digress. They have something for themselves due to the fact that they get themselves new theme music. Especially due to the fact that it's Kansas. And I mean, being a Supernatural fan, I love it. But still, you give yourself something, but not Miro. Once again, I digress. That's the third one of the day in the span of a good minute. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, AEW is selling. They are selling. Why not Miro? We know, once again, the man is capable of doing big things. Why is he not on TV? You can put him in any type of match with whatever type of wrestler. We know that the man can go. But they're just being dumb. Plain old stupid dumb. We know that they're going off on Twitter. We know that people are mad at Tony Khan. When people should say, oh, you shouldn't be mad at Tony. What's it to... What do you mean, what's it to him? He's the one that's sitting in Gorilla every now and then with the mic on his head, making sure that the show runs right. And he's taking info from his EVPs when he would want to book that instead of booking Miro. So the man can take his ball and go home. Fine by me, you know. This is what's wrong with Friends Wrestling, all right? When it's business, it's business. You promote what you know is possibly going to go well. Putting up what you think is going to go well due to the fact that those that you have running the company thinks that their friends are big box office draws, not good for business. Peeps, does that answer your question?
I think that answers the question. And I'll put a little icing on the top of that cake.
Go ahead.
It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
It's juvenile.
Talk about it.
And it reeks of not knowing your business model and your fan base. Because the matches, the promos that Miro were cutting about being forsaken by God and why am I here and all of the things that he was doing. After his initial being the best man gimmick, he's evolved in the 2 years that he's been in AEW. And literally what I see is a waste. Because now that you don't have like a CM Punk there, or some of the other wrestlers that what you could have probably said were above Miro, that might have kind of kept him down in that glass ceiling, so to speak, with so many other talents that are on the roster. This is the perfect time to throw him into a feud with somebody. You're going to sit here and tell me that Miro couldn't have been in a program to win that All-Atlantic Championship that's currently around the waist of Orange Cassidy, who Jim Cornette affectionately calls Pockets? Are you going to sit here and tell me that they couldn't have had him in a feud with Wardlow? You couldn't tell me that they couldn't say, you know what? Maybe AEW, here's what you could be doing with Miro. Maybe AEW is being, they're forsaking me, so maybe I'll go to a real promotion like Ring of Honor, and then I'll show my God who I'm supposed to be beating by going in and taking out Jericho and taking out these guys and taking over Ring of Honor to be world champion, which is obviously something he's not going to be able to do in AEW, at least not right now, while the current people that are in there that are running it are going to see Miro in that light. The fans see him in that light.
Of course.
You and I see him in that light. We've talked about what he can do in AEW, and they haven't used him in that light. He's not hurt. His knees are fine. His back is fine. His neck is fine. So there's nothing wrong with him. The only thing that's wrong with him is that he's on the wrong side of the front office in AEW. And that sucks, because we talked about why people left WWE in the first place. Not necessarily left, but were fired, released, budget cuts. It's whatever excuse you want to use. But that was one of the reasons. Part of it was because they didn't know what to do with guys. They didn't know what to do with a talent like Miro, or somebody that was there that could be used and utilized in the right way. You're going to tell me that they couldn't put Miro in a tag team with somebody and go after the tag team championship?
Hobbs, Joe.
Exactly.
I mean,
could you imagine a feud between Miro and Joe? Hobbs and Miro. Miro and Jungle Boy.
Only in an alternate universe, peeps.
Yes.
Because it doesn't seem like we're ever getting that.
It seems to me that we are in... We 6 months ago, and this is something that I've talked about this with a friend of mine who watches the show. About 6 months ago, we were all in on AEW, even though it had its problems. We talked about, well, they're still growing the audience, et cetera, et cetera. Their audience is between 750,000 to 1 million, somewhere within that wiggle room. On the high end, they get 1 million. On the low end, between 750,000, 700.
Yeah, down to the 18 to 49 demographic. Yeah.
Yes. Now, if you're going to tell me that those same fans that are keen to want to watch wrestlers that they know and want to be in the ring, you're not going to show them what you have. They've got all this talent. When are they going to start to use them? And guys like Miro sitting on the sideline. Now, obviously, Miro did do some acting because I did see him on a TV show about a month ago.
Yeah.
So he has done some acting in some Hollywood, et cetera, et cetera. But he is where he should be, is in a ring with gold, smacking people in the face and putting them through tables and going and walking back to the locker room and talking about how great he is. And that's not happening right now. And it's going to be at the detriment of AEW because Tony Khan, as we've stated before, is the sole booker of the show.
Yeah.
And you cannot book Dynamite, Rampage, Dark Elevation, and Ring of Honor by yourself. Something's got to give.
Exactly.
And he's got to start realizing the guys that you have left WWE and came to AEW because it was a choice. It was an alternative.
Exactly.
When the alternative starts to look the same, they're going to start to leave. And that's the last thing you want to have happen because we've had other names leave AEW to go to WWE. That's the last thing that they want to have happen.
Exactly right.
I digress on that one.
Fourth one, and we're only into fast track, ladies and gentlemen. That is beyond me. But peeps, you did say one key word out there, and you said disgusting. So let's keep that for the first actual topic of today's show. But ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of Fast Track. Of course, if you want to follow through with the new latest daily news of professional wrestling, all you have to do is follow us on IG at Saturday Afternoons _main event and on Twitter at Saturday Main for all the latest social media news and updates. Now, from there, let's go ahead and get into the first topic of today's show. And peeps, as I said, you said disgusting, right?
Yes, very.
Okay. Peeps, I want you to look at this picture and tell me what you see. That's all it takes, man.
Okay. I see your lordship.
Your lordship. Okay. First word that comes to mind.
He looks disgusting. just looking at his face. He looks disgusted. He looks like he smells some poo-poo. That's what he looks like, what he's looking at right now.
All right.
Yes.
Let me put it this way, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, William Regal was cut from WWE a couple of months back. And we thought we would never see Regal with WWE again. Fast forward a couple of months later, I believe at AEW Revolution, Jon Moxley, Daniel Bryan, center of the ring, have a match. I believe Bryan ends up winning the match. Or was it the other way around, peeps?
I believe Danielson won the match, I think. I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
All right, now, put this into perspective. William Regal comes down to the ring, slaps the heck out of the both of them, forms the Blackpool Combat Club weeks later. We hear that Regal signed a 2 to 3 year contract with AEW. And what he's doing is being somewhat of an on-screen manager to the Blackpool Combat Club, but also a behind-the-scenes locker room coach. Fast forward, December 2022, after months of building up the Blackpool Combat Club, after weeks of building up a feud for MJF and Jon Moxley, which culminated into MJF betraying Regal after winning the title. We now hear that Regal asked for his release. Okay. Now, peeps, before I go ahead and get any further, I want to ask you,
Okay.
what do you think is the actual real cause for Regal wanting to leave?
I think as I sat down and thought about it from when the news broke, my thought process is I believe he wanted to help train guys in the back. He wanted to help develop young talent and maybe not get in the ring per se because he has his own health issues that he's
Of
gone
course.
through, but to be utilized in a situation where he could get other people over by helping develop their mic skills, as we saw when this whole feud with MJF started on MJF's ascension to the World Heavyweight Championship. I think he wanted to be able to have that kind of interaction by helping train guys that maybe their mic skills weren't all that great. Arn Anderson used to do the same thing, as they would call it, promo school. Just something that Eddie Kingston has talked about on social media himself. Okay, fine. But the main thing is he wanted to be able to help develop younger talent. This is what I think happened. Part of that reasoning that I'm talking to you about right now, there are a lot of younger guys. I'm not going to name any names, but I think you can kind of infer based on the tone that I'm giving you where they came from or who they may be. That there are guys that are in AEW that would not take the advice of anybody that has been in the business for 30, 40 years and act as if it's going to help them. And a lot of them think that because that they are already in the business and that they have friends that are within the business, that maybe, just maybe, thank you for the advice, but I'm good. Which is one of the reasons why other wrestlers have left AEW because there are veterans that have a lot of information and a lot of knowledge that they can pass along. So I think that's part of it. The other thing is, as I said before, it's the underutilization of William Regal, why they didn't use him the way that they should have. And although I loved the Blackpool Combat Club, I thoroughly love the faction. I love what the premise behind it was, getting 3 or 4 guys that are on the same page and all they want to do is break people's arms and have the best wrestling match on the card. The problem is it only got so far. And although they did win championships, Moxley mostly, Wheeler Yuta winning the Ring of Honor Pure Championship, showcasing what he could do, Regal was underutilized. And I think Regal looked at what Tony Khan was doing and realized, as he was a sunshine, I think you're a bit over your head. And I think that's probably what he was thinking. So now we go and figure Triple H, he's got the earshot of what's going on over here with the NXT brand. And there's still some opportunity for an on-screen commissioner, GM, somebody that can train the young guys. It's still there. And I think that his love of that side of the business completely superseded what he was doing in AEW. And that's where we are right now.
All right. Before I go any further, I just want to go ahead and let anybody that's in right now that chimed in with, of course, Dodgy. He says, "Oh, Sugar Honey Iced Tea, you know things are getting serious when the Phenomenal One and the Peeps are in the house." And, of course, Hot Rod. Wow, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Both the Phenomenal 2 and Cheap Nate have working internet at the same time. I digress and we'll savor this moment. First fan, I digress, of the morning. Hello, Hot Rod. But Dodgy said something here, and I'm about to go ahead and show it out. He says NXT return is definitely coming very soon. Regal will be the one to implicate the change to black and gold. Regal has had a release clause in his contract with his health issues. If he doesn't feel he can do it, then he could leave. I'm sorry to say, but he's pulled a fast one over AEW. He's definitely BS'd his way out of the company so he can return to WWE/NXT because Vince is no longer there. He's activated his release and is about to return to NXT, and he will make it black and gold again. Now, of course, with what other news sites and other wrestling factories are saying and portraying is that Regal said that he wanted to leave to go ahead and coach his son. Of course, if you know who his son is, you would know that he is a part of NXT UK, formerly, and his ring name, Charlie Dempsey. Of course, that's fine. But, once again, Dodgy just said that, I was about to go ahead and relay this out, that he had a release clause in his contract that pertained with his health issues. So if he felt that he wanted to leave, he would leave. Now, Tony Khan grants Regal's release, which means Regal will be able to sign with WWE. Okay, cool. But the one little thing, I wouldn't say it's little because, that would be an understatement. This is mind-boggling, okay? People talk about Vince McMahon's 30-day release clause and say, oh my gosh, why is he able to do this? What's the whole point? But Tony Khan has went ahead and granted Regal his release with the clause being a year of not being on screen.
Wow.
A year.
Wow.
Which means not only are we not going to be able to see Regal, but at next year's Survivor Series, we're not going to be able to hear the infamous War Games. Why? Okay, jokes aside, I'm kind of pissed off at that, but still. Why? Peeps, is Tony that afraid? Now listen, I get it. Even before Regal even got his release, or maybe he got it at that exact moment, whatever the case may be, you remember that the night of Survivor Series, Triple H went ahead and put out on all his social media platforms Regal yelling War Games. And we sat there to ourselves and we were like, what the heck? How's he? Yes. Wait, what? Showing Regal on his platform? Yelling War Games? Huh, this is new. And, we didn't think anything of it due to the fact that the news didn't come out yet that Regal, got his release granted. But why do that? 30 days. Okay, 30 days seems minimal. Okay, cool. Like, we're used to the norm of 30-day release clauses. But a year? 365 days to the day that he got released, you're telling me that he's not able to go ahead and show up on TV as an on-screen character. But you're allowing him to go ahead and leave and sign with the other company. So that means he'll be able to be there under contract, but not be on screen. Peeps, does that make any sense to you?
No, it doesn't make any sense in the standpoint of, what benefit does it have for AEW? It's not like, well, William Regal went to WWE. That means that AEW is going out of business because of, oh, wow. It's like, oh, we just released The Rock. He's going to another company. Oh, we got to block him and delay as much as we can and obfuscate as much as we can.
Exactly. It's Regal.
Exactly. Now, that's not a slight on Regal, but let's really be honest. It's Regal.
Yeah.
It's not a bigger name, although he is held in extreme reverence to those that are in the know like us.
Yeah.
Other wrestling fans.
Of course.
Problem here is Tony Khan is showing that he can be just as petty business-wise and wrestling-wise as Vince McMahon. And that's one of the reasons why so many people left WWE in the first place. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people were glad they left WWE in the first place. And now that we've got this going where you start to see these instances happen. We talked about Miro, what's going on with him. We talked about with Cody Rhodes leaving to go to WWE and wondering, well, how was that the case when he was one of the founding members of AEW and all of the other things that he brought to the table, and all of these other wrestlers that were in AEW that left to go back to WWE or were thinking about going to AEW, changed their minds, and then went to WWE. The reason is Tony Khan is starting to lose grip on why AEW existed in the first place. Mm-hmm. The whole company was supposed to be counterculture to the WWE. Literally anything that WWE was not doing, they were doing the opposite of to a degree. Hardcore wrestling, older, more mature audience, blood and guts, so to speak. All of those things that a lot of the older school wrestling fans or of that demographic were looking for.
Yup, unscripted promos and all, exactly.
Yes, exactly. You didn't see people reading from some kind of a cue card or something that they had to memorize something. They were given, you got bullet points, speak your promo the way you normally would, the way it was back in the early 80s. And that's what AEW was. Somewhere between the first and the second year, AEW kind of shifted its thinking from being that alternative new company to trying to be WWE light with a lot of cursing and a lot of blood.
Yup.
And that's not how it works. And although the in-ring product in AEW in a lot of instances is better, it's not like that all the time, and it's not like that consistently as much as it was when it first started up.
Of
And
course.
that's something that the rabid fans of AEW who will stick with AEW through thick and thin, you don't have to worry about them.
Exactly.
What you got to worry about are the fans that left WWE to come to AEW because it was different. And now that they see this isn't as different as I thought it was, they may either leave AEW and go elsewhere. Maybe they look at Impact Wrestling. Maybe they look at MLW. Maybe they go back to WWE. Or they just say, you know what, I'm done looking at wrestling. And that's the real danger that Tony Khan literally has to watch out for. He's got, like I said, 5 TV shows really to book for, and he's really the only person doing the majority of the booking. And that's going to lead to burnout, bad ideas, and more importantly, a worsening product. And that's the last thing that you want to have happen.
Exactly. Oh, man. But here's the thing. Oh, Dodgy said it on point. AEW is a company built with a roster that are anti-Vince. The problem is, they all love Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Mm, that's a good point.
Exactly
That's a very
right.
good point.
So now, peeps, with this being put in, and now knowing that Tony Khan wants to put 1-year release clauses on people's contracts, if they ask to be released and they get it granted, does that kind of put fear in the eyes of the locker room that feel, so to speak, to want to leave, like, so to say, Adam Cole, so to say, probably just out there as, like, a fact, probably Miro, people of that nature? Does this put fear in their minds, knowing that they won't be able to be on screen and have a job for at least a year if they want to be released, knowing that they're not being utilized by Tony Khan?
Well, if this is obviously it's alleged, we won't know 100% everything that's going on with the contract situations with everybody. But if this is something that was just for this particular instance, and it's not the normal 30-day, 60-day non-compete clause that you usually hear about in wrestling contracts when a wrestler leaves or gets released, and then they want to go elsewhere. If this is just something that is individual case scenario where it's just that, okay, that's one thing. The deterrence in other wrestlers leaving AEW, or maybe a reluctance to either resign or to sign a longer term deal, the only way that happens is if, one, the paychecks stop coming in. Two, they start losing, well, I'm not on TV in a while. Like guys like Brian Cage, who you've heard me talk about ad nauseum for weeks. Cage is now starting to show up a little more often. But there was a good 6 month span when he was healthy and wasn't being used. And it was driving him nuts. And his wife was talking about that. Why is he even in AEW if they don't even use him? You're going to start to hear more and more of those kinds of situations where you start to hear about, well, if you're going to be in a company that has this huge roster of talent, and the one thing that they always talk about is it's a sports presentation where your records matter, where we're going to have championships here and then we're going to have rankings of wrestlers, and that doesn't even get utilized. And then it's like, well, the point of the ranking is that to show these wrestlers more often on television. And you don't show them on TV as often because whatever rankings they have make no sense because they're not being used. And then there's the occasion where, oh, somebody on Dynamite is getting a championship match. Well, who is it? This person that's been wrestling on Dark, but he's undefeated. Well, if he was undefeated, why is it we don't know anything about this guy? That's part of the problem. They don't promote the people that need to be promoted. And this is part of the situation that you have when you have the current structure of AEW between Tony Khan and then the EVPs, and then you have other guys in the locker room that are kind of like agents that'll talk and they're like liaisons to the talent, then to the EVPs, and then to Tony Khan. When you have that structure there, and that structure seems to be as long as you're friends with the EVPs, you got to push. But if you're not, sucks to be you. That's part of the problem right now. And that's going to come back and bite Tony Khan in the rear if he doesn't get that rectified soon.
I mean, peeps, it doesn't seem like it's getting rectified. The one thing that I've noticed, if you caught on to All Elite Wrestling's Instagram page and Twitter, you would know that when they first started out, every week they would update the power rankings. They would update to let you know who's in line to probably be the number one contender for a title. Who would,
Yes.
who jumped up, who went down, who has a better record, who's still undefeated. But due
They
to
would
the fact
announce
that
a week prior somebody is getting a
Exactly.
title match on the next show. So
Now-
if you follow it, yeah.
now it's gone, vanished in the thin air. Nothing no longer makes sense. Now it's turning into. It sucks to say, AEW is now becoming what they hate.
Yeah.
They are now becoming what they hate, and
Yes.
I don't see it changing anytime soon. Right now, I'm just ready for the domino effect, peeps. Because right now, if you've noticed, the reason that a lot of it stayed through was because of Cody Rhodes.
Yes.
Now that Cody's gone, domino effect has started a long time back. And I mean,
Cody was the reason that the sports presentation was in the booking. He was the
Exactly.
one that said that, you know what, when I was a kid growing up and watching wrestling, it was, oh, who are the top 5 contenders for so-and-so's championship? And it would make sense to show first, second, third. Oh, he had a match at a house show that over a top contender, so that bumped him up. And those are the kinds of those standings you would see them shift, and they were kind of dynamic. And then you would hear Tony Schiavone in WCW talk about it on a Saturday night. Oh, we had movement in the rankings, and now this person is up for a title shot. And then you would hear at some point, he's the number one contender now, and they would make a feud over somebody moving in as the number one contender, and then that would be the basis of the next pay-per-view. He's getting a title shot finally. Where is that? Every week we see somebody else getting a title shot, and a lot of times there seems to be no rhyme or reason as to how that person got the title shot or why they got the title shot. It's just all of a sudden Joe Schmo from Piccolo, Kansas or someplace just got a title shot. How? We don't know who he is. We don't know where he came from. Oh, he's making his debut. Now, AR Fox is another good wrestler that's been out there on the independents and has been going around. But they didn't do a great job of letting anybody know until his second week. Oh, AR Fox now all elite. Well, where did he come from? Well, who is he? What is he about? Why is he here? Nothing. And that's the AEW problem. They don't promote the guys the right way. Unless your name is Omega, your name is Jackson, and you're friends with Tony Khan. That seems to be a big indictment on what I'm seeing. But if that's the case, they're going to have some serious problems going forward.
oh yes, you're not even wrong. You're not even wrong.
And
Taekwondo's
I've avoided saying that about AEW for a long time because I wanted to see if it was going to change itself up after this.
it never was gonna change, peeps. I mean,
Exactly. We're 3 years. We're going into year 4 of AEW's existence, and it's the same stuff. You're gonna obviously have growing pains. You're gonna have things happen, change. This
Of course,
works, this
but-
doesn't. But no, the main problems continue to plague this company, and they haven't learned it yet. They're not growing their audience because they're doing the same things that keep the audience from growing. That's the problem.
Really is, really is. Taekwon in the chat said this. He said Regal signed to China for 1 season and got sent back to the league. He's not wrong.
Oh boy.
But I mean, still, in this sense, look, not having Regal on TV for a year, it sucks. It's disgusting.
Yes.
I feel disgusted. I know Regal, by the look at his face right there, is disgusted.
Yes.
But, you know, I guess a year won't seem too bad the minute it goes by quick.
Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. But still, in the world of listen, Tony, get your stuff together. You know, I said this months ago after the media scrum. Get yourself business executives that can actually be EVPs. Do not leave it to the professional wrestlers.
Exactly.
But I guess, that will never change due to the fact that I guess he just wants to sustain having Omega and Jackson up at the top of that,
Could you imagine if Gabe Sapolsky or Jim Cornette or one of those or both of them were running AEW? As like Tony Khan is he's the money man, he's the owner, and it's Cornette and Sapolsky. You guys get creative going. You tell me who the guys is going to be pushed, who's not, what the structure of contenders for each championship, and how we're going to do all of that, and then how we're going to basically craft these 2-hour shows to show that there's importance. You do that, and you get improvement.
Until then, we're used to friends wrestling. Ain't this just amazing, peeps?
It's a wonderful world, isn't it?
Oh, just amazing. Just amazing.
Yes.
But, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, that marks the end of the first half of Saturday afternoon's main event. When we come back from that 30-second break, we will go ahead and have Peeps' favorite part, the questions. And right after that, we will have our predictions for tonight's premium live event. Dang it, Hunter, just change it back to pay-per-views, please. The premium live event, NXT Deadline. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. The second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Now let's go ahead and get into our favorite part, the questions. And first one comes from Long Island Isaiah, and he says this: I'm actually hyped for NXT Deadline. I think I'm morphing back into my old self, guys. You're not the only one, you're not alone. Why? Because I'm starting to feel that this premium live event is now the beginning of something good for NXT. I actually thought it was Halloween Havoc. I may be wrong. Deadline has been hyped up to be something good, and I'm actually looking forward to tonight. I kid you not, peeps. Yes. What do you think about NXT Deadline being in the works for tonight, and what do you think is the stepping stone from here?
I think they're on the right track. What I did not like about the build for the Iron Survivor Challenge match was the Grayson Waller effect that they did at the end of the show. The interview, the promos that they cut to build, to me, was weak. And I didn't like it in the sense that you got all the participants that are there. True, that's supposed to be it's literally, the best way to describe it is, it's an Iron Man elimination match, where it's literally, a 30-minute match, I think it's supposed to be. And the person that gets the most falls in that time span wins. But if you get pinned, you're put in like a penalty box. So it's like an Iron Man match, and then a little bit of the King of the Mountain kind of TNA Impact deal. So they're trying to get something going in that match. I just didn't like the way they built that last match for the go home show. But as a whole, the way the card is going, this, I think, is the stepping stone going forward. that, you know what, you came off of Halloween Havoc, you come off of this. Now NXT is building itself as a brand. You're not seeing the NXT guys having matches on the main roster show because they really don't need to do that.
Exactly. Huh. Well, I don't blame you on that, peeps. Next one comes from Tombstone City Adam. He says, what's your thoughts about AEW scrapping MJF's babyface churn?
I am ecstatic.
Most definitely.
I said this before. We know MJF at some point will be a face.
Of course.
The fact that he teased the whole face thing in the build up to his match where he beat Moxley for the championship shows you what it could be like. But there are some wrestlers that become great faces because they were such great heels. And I've said this before, there are some people that probably should never be faces. There are some people that should never be heels. Perfect example. If I bring up a name and you think of that person, you think this person could never be a face or never be a heel. Okay. Kevin Sullivan.
Never be a face.
Even though he was a face in his career, you can't think of him.
He started off
as
a face, but I mean, after that whole Army of Darkness thing, it can never be a face.
With all of that evil and the voodoo and all of that worshiping blood, all that, you can't see him as anything other than a heel.
Exactly.
Ricky Steamboat, can you see him as a heel?
Nope. Definite face.
Without question, one of the greatest faces in the history of professional wrestling. Now, I'll give you a tweener name who's done both, but you tell me who's much more synonymous with what. Ric Flair.
We know that the man can be a face, of course, but
yes.
peeps. I'll give you notion. I'll give you notion. Savage! Elizabeth was mine before she was yours. Woo! That's all I need to tell you.
Exactly.
The man is a natural born heel.
Yes.
Honestly, I love Ric Flair the heel more than I can love Ric Flair the face.
Yes.
Because even when he's a face, he still has the heel, mannerisms. It's it's just that good, but still heel.
Yes, and this belies my point that you can have anybody with traits that go to either side, and you can have a guy who is a straight, right between the middle, straight shooter, or you can have a guy that can be a face in one territory the way it used to be, and be a heel in another territory. Perfect example: the Road Warriors, when they were in Japan, were heels, straight up heels, putting people into ring posts and breaking people in half. But in America, for the most part, outside of when they first got into the Carolinas and started up in the AWA, they were heels as part of the Legion of Doom, and then they initially broke off into being faces because they were so popular. So you can now look at that and say, I can't picture this team or this group of wrestlers or this particular guy as being anything other than. MJF is in that same discussion. He's just like Roddy Piper. Piper was a face, Piper was a heel, but Piper was a much better heel than he was a face. And that's what MJF is trying to show you guys, because he lives his gimmick. When you remember, he did the convention, the signing the autographs, and he flipped a little kid the bird. That is dedication to kayfabe, and that's something that a lot of heels just don't do anymore. That's why MJF is a much better heel. He doesn't need to be a face, and if he never turned face, I wouldn't be upset.
Who would be, peeps? I mean, it's honestly, MJF being I'm not mad at it, but I would just know that evidently, that heel trend would go ahead and be in the works of coming back sooner or later, because it wouldn't be for long. Honestly, that's just me. Next and last question comes from Master Sean 007. He says, greetings, gentlemen. I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
1, has wrestling turned from looking like an actual competitive sport to more like a circus performance because of all the cooperation that goes on in the ring? 2. How many matches should a wrestler have in their career before they are considered experienced enough to be put on TV without embarrassing themselves and the company that they work for? And 3. What if I told you that this feud between the Elite and CM Punk was a work? I'll answer the third one for you first.
Good.
Peeps. Oh, man. Okay. To answer that question, that's the Sean 007. You would send Twitter into a frenzy. A frenzy. You would have us going into World War Z.
Yes. At least what's left of Twitter, based on the way it's being run. But hey, I digress on that one.
God bless Elon Musk. Oh, man.
That's the fifth one. That's the fifth one today. So go figure.
Only in a span of an hour, man. This is amazing.
Yes.
Okay. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't believe it. I really wouldn't believe it. Reason why being that with the way that social media, pretty much aired out everything, I wouldn't be able to sit there and tell you, this is a work. If this was the kind of thing that they didn't go ahead and air out that quick and how all of the dirty laundry was literally there, then I would sit there and tell you, yo, listen, okay, cool. Maybe, somewhere around this, in the span of a good couple of months, Punk comes back, does something crazy, and builds up to a feud. But honestly, I can't see that happening. This was point blank period real. This.
I don't think the people in AEW are
that smart.
That smart to be that smart. If you understand where I'm coming.
Honestly, not being biased from whatever case, but Hunter would be the type of person to build this off into a feud. Most definitely. I mean, to think that they kind of used Eddie's death as a build up, knowing that it wasn't Hunter, but it was Vince and the rest of the creative writers at that time in 04 or 04, 05. They used Eddie Guerrero's death as a build up to the World Heavyweight title match at Mania 22 between Orton, Mysterio, and Angle.
Yeah.
We know that they're capable of stooping that low.
Yes.
All Elite Wrestling, in a sense? Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. Yeah, not happening.
Remember, Vince allowed the Matt Hardy and Edge drama to turn into a feud.
They allowed.
Shortly after that, yes. And then shortly after that, Matt Hardy was gone. So, you figure out that what you will. So, are we in agreement on this that if it was a work, I think we'd do the same reaction that you just said, ha ha ha. I have to give it to Jeff Jarrett laugh. No, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
The first two parts of that one, you back that one up and let me see. Has wrestling turned from an actual competition to a circus-like performance because of the cooperation that goes on in the ring? Here's what I will say. There was a video that I was sent of, I forgot what promotion it was, earlier in the week by a friend of mine. And it was 3 guys outside. I'm guessing it was a 6-man tag. 3 guys were outside the ring, standing around. They got thrown out. 2 guys are in, one standing on the other guy's shoulders, and then the other one doing the same. And the person that's holding both of them is walking. The camera angle isn't obscure to just show the guys that are about to do the dive. It's showing everything. So it looks like it was from, say, the rafters out, so that you can see the guys outside waiting, and then you can see the guys in the ring doing a little crab walk, little walk, and then they dove over. It is amongst the most ridiculous thing I've seen in a long time. And it goes to what we've talked about before, in the fact that certain matches, certain moves, certain set pieces, to borrow something from the world of soccer, you need certain set pieces within a match that make sense, that build into the rest of the match. Like, for instance, a lot of the match yesterday, for those that might have watched Rampage, the first match between Jon Moxley and Kanowski, that was without question one of the better matches that I've seen. They literally beat the hell out of each other. I know Moxley decided to bleed all over everybody, but that's about as routine as the sun coming up. Although the sun comes up, water is wet, and John Moxley's bleeding. But hey, it is what it is. But to see a lot of, especially in a lot of the tag team matches and a lot of 6-man trios matches, you see a lot of going to the ropes. So especially like with Ray Phoenix, he'll run up the ropes, he'll walk up the ropes, he'll bounce between the ropes up to the top rope to do a Hurricane Rana. Then he'll run to the ropes, he'll spin, hit the brakes, come back out, turn around, do a spin wheel kick that gets missed. And there is a little bit of cooperation and coordination with some of this stuff. The art of pro wrestling is making it look natural, where even if you botch something, the botch makes sense. Because if you look at any other sport, botches happen all the time. Somebody goes for a crossover, they bounce the ball off their foot, goes into the third row. A quarterback throws a pass to a wide receiver, hits him in the helmet. Oh, you botched the throw. Oh, you botched the catch. Oh, you tripped over your shoelace and fell on your face. That's normal within the context of a competitive athletic event. When you're looking at pro wrestling, it has to look crisp, believable, and more importantly, in the context of the match, it has to make sense. And too many times we've seen matches devolve into a chop fest, a super kick party fest. We see no selling of clotheslines 8 million times, where guys will stay in the corner and hit you 8 times with clotheslines. We'll see people no sell moves that shouldn't be no sold, or do a move that should end the match and they kick out at 1 or kick out at 2. Now, unless you're trying to tell a story of something that makes sense in the context of the match, a lot of these things make no sense. If I hit you with a brain buster 20 minutes into a match and you get up, unless you're trying to show me that you got this intestinal fortitude, but yet the rest of the match you don't do any other move, okay. But you should not get up after a brain buster. You should not get up after a pile driver. You should not get up after a DDT through a table. Moves like that end matches, and people are getting up at the count of 1 or the count of 2 with enough time to spare. That's the part of wrestling that drives a lot of people crazy. And that's something that has to be worked on, because it's becoming a lost art.
I mean, I don't blame you, Peeps. Most definitely. I think you hit it on the money with that. And to answer the second one, how many matches should a wrestler have in their career before they're considered experienced enough to be put on TV without embarrassing themselves?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the
how quick they learn.
Exactly. How quick they learn, the promotion that they're in, and what they're trying to accomplish for that particular wrestler. Now, obviously, if you've only been training for 6 months, and then you just get in the ring, and then all of it, not everybody can be Logan Paul, where he's probably been a great athlete outside of pro wrestling, and then was probably trained for maybe 6 months to a year, and then got in the ring and had great wrestlers around him to kind of help walk him through certain things. And then when they rip the Band-Aid off, he can still go ahead and do what he needs to do. That doesn't happen too often. What you end up usually having are guys that get in the ring that don't know spacing, they don't know where to go near the ropes, they don't know how and when to sell, they don't know the pacing of a match, and facial expressions, how to sell. If I've been working on your leg, you shouldn't be able to get up and run full speed to the ropes. That's not how it works. And these are the kinds of intricate things that you miss when you're looking at talent, you're looking at wrestlers, especially when they come up and it's like, oh, we got this brand new guy, let's bring him in. And he is really, really green. Or you see a new professional wrestler, she comes up and she's really, really green. And then you notice that it makes the match suffer. And that's when you get the fans who start looking at the product and then they start saying, wow, this is bad. Then you start hearing the boring chants, which I hate hearing in any vernacular of wrestling. When I see people go out there and try their hardest, and we've actually texted each other watching a match And it's like, they tried really hard. They're
Yep.
doing as best as they can, but the fans just are not.
They're
They're
not
not
in tune with
grabbing.
it.
They're not in
Exactly.
tune with it, and that happens when you get enough experience to know what works. When you think, what, the fans really liked it when you did such and such. So you go ahead and do that. And that little conversation that I did, those words that I just spoke, can happen in the span of 2 seconds between the wrestlers that are in the ring, and they can just go ahead and catch that. And then lo and behold, you have Moxley and Kanasuke, the match that they had yesterday on Rampage, to the extent that the fans started booing Moxley and cheering Kanasuke
Talk about
halfway
it.
through the match. And it's because they picked up on what worked in the match, and those fans were hot for it. That's what has to be done. And those are the things that need to be worked on if you're a professional wrestler to get the fans on your side. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm going to go from this move to this move, and we're going to stick to that rigid format. You have to be able to work with the fans to see what works. Okay, that bit isn't working now. Let's go to this and do it that way. And the fans will genuinely thank you for it by what they do when the match is over.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So hopefully we answer your question, Master Sean 007, to the best of our extent.
Great question.
Great question. Great question. And that marks the end of our questions, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. We always let y'all know we love the questions. Keep sending them in. Only way to do it. At Saturday Afternoons _main event on Instagram. DM us a question and it will be featured on the next episode of the show. And we guarantee it. Most definitely. With that marking the end of our questions, we go into the last part of the show. Once again, as I said before, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Tonight, NXT deadline. Oh, this is going to be great, peeps. This is going to be great.
Oh, yes.
So, to start it off, how we see this happening. Men's Iron Survivor Challenge to determine the number one contender for the NXT Championship. Carmelo Hayes, JD McDonough, Grayson Waller, Joe Gacy, and Ixiom. Peeps! Listen, I don't know how many times I have to say it. But honestly, really speaking, I'm only at two people right now. Either Grayson Waller or JD McDonough. But, I've always been infatuated with Jordan Devlin. So, put me down, JD McDonough for the win.
Okay. I got you right there. I wrote it down so everybody will know that I just put JD McD. So I just
that
put
works. That
Yes.
works. That works.
Yeah. That is without question. Looking at first of all, I don't think anybody thinks Axiom is winning this. So
of course not. Come on.
As good of a wrestler as A-Kid is, the Axiom gimmick, I don't think it's really working
Of course.
that well. At least it's not scripts, so you don't have to worry about Reggie.
About it. Oh Lord.
Reggie, oh good grief! They majorly they had intrigue with building him, and then they just it went over like a fart in church. Okay, that's how it went. McDonough or Waller? I don't see Gacy winning unless they're trying to really push this whole
schism thing,
this schism cult takeover of NXT. Carmelo Hayes, I don't see him winning because I think he's literally this close to going to the main roster. Yeah. So if that's the case, yeah. But I can actually see McDonough winning this. And I see it because just something about him and just his evil ways. Because him getting a title match, it's not like this is for the championship. This is for a title shot.
Yeah,
I can see McDonough, who's already had a title shot with Braun Breaker. I can see him getting another one. And I can actually see him at some point being NXT champion. So I'll put that in there as well. So yes, I can see that happen.
All right. The Women's Iron Survivor Challenge to determine the number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. Zoe Stark, Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, Kiana James, and Indy Hartwell. Would it be a shame if I told you I wanted Hartwell to win?
No, you'd be wrong, but I wouldn't say that is the case. I understand why. She, of the ones that are in the match, she looks the most well rounded. Although for me, I have been a Zoe Stark fan for quite some time, and I mark out for Zoe Stark every chance I get. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull an audible on this. As much as I like Zoe Stark in this, I would not be overly shocked if
Of course.
they pulled something really crazy and had Cora Jade win this match. And the reason why is because there is something that I've been seeing out of Cora for I'd say the last 2 or 3 months since they turned her heel. The heel turn is probably the best thing that's happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that right now, although I'm personally thinking that Zoe Stark is going to win this based on how they've turned her. But if Cora wins this match, I would not be thoroughly ashamed of it either. So I'm going to have to go ahead and say, if I'm going to flip a coin between Zoe and Cora Jade, I'm thinking that Cora Jade is going to come out of this. And just for the fact that, like I said before, I see the attention that they're paying to her and what they want to do with her. Now, is she going to win a championship? Not anytime soon. But I have a feeling that that's what's going to happen in this match. But I will be rooting for Zoe Stark. That goes without question.
I hear you. I can understand having Cora Jade win, but I mean, still, just me seeing, Indy win and hopefully get a push, at least just one title match. I've been hoping for the longest time. Now's that moment. So I need to go ahead and go with Indy. Yeah.
Okay, so you got Indy winning. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a feeling that if Indy wins, that we might actually get a Dexter Loomis appearance during the show?
If anything, peeps, I think that if she gets this title shot, let's say she gets the title shot, and in February she goes ahead and, probably like that's when they have that match for like, the NXT Women's title. And, she ends up losing. There is nothing left for her at NXT. Mm-hmm. I need a main roster. I needed to go to the main roster. There, we start to see what they can possibly go ahead and do with her. She's been at NXT for the longest time. Now's the time for her to go ahead and make that, make that leap. So
she's been in NXT. She's been in NXT for almost 4 years now.
Exactly.
So she's been there a while. Yeah.
Exactly. So if anything, keep Zoe Stark, keep Cora Jade, Roxanne Perez, whatever the case may be. But I think just to push Indy, see where she can go ahead and take herself with this last little feud in NXT, and from there have her graduate from developmental and move her up to the main roster. Yes. So that's why I really want to see Indy win this. From there, let's go ahead and skip the NXT title match and leave that probably for last. Tag team match for the NXT tag titles. Pretty Deadly versus the New Day. Seeing Xavier Woods, in his little curly afro, alongside, Kofi Kingston, and battling for the NXT tag team titles. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. Hopefully seeing them win it, that would be something else. I'm not, Pretty Deadly do what they have to do as heels because I really downright can't stand them.
Yes.
They irritate me.
Which is the reason why I think Pretty Deadly's gonna win.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
That's the problem.
Honestly,
if they're looking to do something with New Day, knowing that New Day just lost that tag team championship record to the Usos, having them win the NXT tag team championships, that would be a great consolation prize.
You're not wrong. That works.
Would it happen?
We'll just have to wait and see. But honestly, you can put me down. You can put me down for Pretty Deadly, because it just all depends on how that goes tonight. But I know for a fact that with how they book those guys, I just honestly think they're coming out of this as the victors. That's just how it works. Singles match, Alba Fire. Jesus, just name her back to Kaylee Ray. Lord. Alba Fire versus Isla Dawn.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of WWE, the Alba Fire thing has kind of grown on me, especially with the whole baseball bat and the
Really?
fire and it's growing. It's definitely they could do worse.
You're not wrong.
But the way that the WWE does as far as a name to market, that's the reason why they're doing it. And I think based on the fact that Isla Dawn is they just brought her in
Mm-hmm.
and she's literally a female version of Malachi Black. I have a
Isla
feeling that
Dawn.
Isla Dawn is going to win this match
You're not the
because you
only
got to
one.
build a feud. She's shown up. She's doing all of these things, and I don't think it's going to hurt Alba if she loses this match as much, depending on how they do the match. And I think Isla Dawn is going to come out of this one. So,
You're not the only one. You can put me down on that one too.
okay,
Even Taekwon says Isla Dawn is his pick. I don't listen. We don't blame you, man. Most
Yeah.
definitely with what they're doing with her. I'm liking it so far. So
Yes.
most definitely Isla Dawn for the win.
yes.
From there, last but not least, NXT title match: Braun Breaker versus Apollo Crews. Do you really have to put down my pick? Actually, guys, let's play guess the pick. Peeps, who do you think I'm going for on this one?
Triple H, because he's the real winner.
Talk about
I think we're both looking at Braun winning this, and I think they're going to save. Even though, first of all, the story that they've told with Apollo Crews and Braun Breaker has been absolute weak sauce. And they're fishing buddies, and they're going fishing, and they're talking. Oh, we're going to be friends, we're going to be champions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, if they were legitimate friends, like they were a tag team for a very long time, and then they decided, well, Apollo came back to go after that championship, and then they're talking about friends, but okay, that would make much more sense. It would be a little more intriguing. The build for this seems to me. This has all of the markings of Apollo Crews turning heel and doing something nefarious. If this was the avenue that they were going to take to put the belt on Apollo Crews and then move Braun up the ranking to, or I should say, up the roster to Raw or SmackDown, and I can actually see Braun on SmackDown, just move right up and slide right in there. But I don't think that they're doing that now. I think they wanted at least wait until sometime early next year before they pull the trigger on that. So I think that it's safe to say, at least for me, Braun is coming out of this winning.
Most definitely, most definitely. Taekwon says this: they ain't friends. Apollo didn't invite him to the cookout. It was exclusively white activities. That's crazy. But peeps, to go ahead and determine my reasons for this, let's go ahead and do some quick math.
Oh boy.
Okay, so we have 5 matches on the card.
Yes.
2 being to determine a contender for a title. 1 to determine the winner of one title.
Yeah.
And another one to determine tag team titles, which consists of 4 individuals.
Okay.
Peeps, a part of this whole thing, we have about, let's see. So, I would say about a good 18 competitors throughout the whole show. This show is supposed to last 2 hours.
Yes.
This means that most definitely the third match of the night, being consisted of 2 individuals for 1 title, is going to be the main event of this 5-match show, consisting of, once again, 2 hours. Which means only one person can come out of this, the victor. That was some quick Steiner math for you, and due to the fact that it was some Steiner math, I mean most definitely this means one thing and one thing only. Taekwon, let's get your answer. Yes, Braun Steiner. There we go. There we go.
Yes.
So yes, okay, Braun Breaker. I can't, with how much I can say I've been loving the feud and how, they're having a potluck battle for we all know it's pretty definite that Braun's going to go ahead and keep the title for a little more. Yeah. Who's going to take it off him? That is to be determined. But still, Braun needs this title on him for a good amount of time before he goes ahead and makes the leap to the roster. I wanted it to happen a long time back, but it seems like that wasn't the direction they wanted to go into. But look, Breaker with the title doesn't really get me mad. I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. NXT needed that. Needs that face to go ahead and hold them accountable for the next couple of months up until the point that he does lose it. But as of right now, keep it on Braun. Taekwon says, I failed a math test today, so I should have had Scott Steiner as my tutor. Still passed the class, so I'm cool. Listen, I think I'm going to use Steiner math on my college algebra exam this week, too. Don't worry about it, Taekwon. Don't worry about it. Scott Steiner math is going to go ahead and help me through it. Well, that makes two of us.
Yes.
But
and I have a ruler for you guys if you need the extra help to try to get yourselves figured out.
Nah, if anything, I think I need to go ahead and go, I need to DM Scott and ask him if he knows anything about the Pythagorean theorem. And then from there, I'll go ahead and, make my case on if I should pass or not. But trust me, peeps, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Okay. Just make
most definitely, man. I thank you. From there, that marks the end of today's episode of Saturday Afternoon's main event. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you for going ahead and tuning in and listening to what we have to say throughout everything that we did today. Of course, here on Saturday Afternoon's main event, our job is to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. And hopefully we went ahead and conquered that obstacle of doing just that. Ladies and gentlemen, just know that next week, episode 3 will be up for you guys. Make sure that you tune in live just to catch all the new things that we do talk about. Of course, we know that we're always going to have a packed show for you guys, so just stay tuned. From there, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thank you once again for tuning in. And on this episode of Saturday Afternoon's main event, I, the Phenomenal One,
and I, the Peeps and H, where we came,
we saw,
and in the words of Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for episode 3. It is the Phenomenal One and the Peeps and H signing off on episode 2. Peace, love, farewell.